Hey there! Welcome to week 4 of our Birds and Bees series, Dating and Healthy Relationships. This week we're talking about questioning your sexuality. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. Sexuality. How do you even define that? Here's a quote I found online that I thought was helpful. Sexuality is about your feelings, thoughts, attractions, and behaviors towards other people. You can find other people physically or emotionally attractive, and all those things are a part of your sexuality. Sexuality is diverse and personal, and it is an important part of who you are. Discovering your sexuality can be a very liberating, exciting, and positive experience. Some people experience discrimination due to their sexuality. If someone gives you a hard time about your sexuality, it's good to talk to someone about it. Sexuality is not a bad thing. Often in our church culture and our American culture, the words sexuality or sexual have a negative meaning for people. So a person might say, oh, that thing was very sexual, and by it they mean inappropriate or uncomfortable. But sexuality or sexual are actually neutral words that simply describe part of the human life. Sexuality is part of what it is to be human. Each human has sexuality. This doesn't mean that we're bad or immoral. It's just how we were created. Yes, it has the word sex in it, but sexuality means so much more than just this one word. While everyone has sexuality, each person's sexuality is unique to them, and sexuality shows up differently in every person's life. Your sexuality includes both your orientation and your gender identity. Sexuality isn't just about sex. So your orientation is about who you are attracted to, and your gender identity is about who you feel you are. Both topics relate to our body parts, specifically our genitals, aka private crotch areas. It's okay to feel nervous or embarrassed while talking about this because in many ways your sexuality is something that is no one's business but yours, unless you choose to share it. It helps to remember that we all have body parts and we all experience confusion about them sometimes. No human is alone in dealing with this. So, in short, your sexuality is basically the way that you relate to your own body and the way that you relate to others. It's the connection between your mind and your body and your connection to other people and their minds and bodies. That is what sexuality encompasses. One more detail before we continue. The word sex has more than one meaning. Meaning one, it's used more casually and commonly, is the thing that people do when they are alone together in private. But meaning two, and the one that we're focusing on more today, is the kind of genitals a person has. So it's used more in educational or clinical settings. Part of questioning your sexuality is questioning your gender identity. So sex and gender are two different things. Sex is your specific body parts you were born with, like the specific genitals that you have, male or female or somewhere in between. Gender is who you feel you are regardless of your body parts. So that is who you feel like inside your mind. This is something many people don't struggle with or question because they're comfortable with the gender they were assigned at birth based on their sex. This is called cisgender. When someone feels their gender is different from what they were assigned with at birth based on their genitals, then they are transgender. Some transgender people decide to make changes in their lives so that their outward appearance better matches who they feel they are on the inside. Some transgender people never do this due to fear of discrimination and or violence. Gender is a spectrum, not a coin. So the coin viewpoint of gender is that it has to be either heads or tails, either male or female. There are no other options besides male and female. It's a very binary system. So binary meaning two, or in computer coding, binary is a series of zeros and ones, and 0 and 1 are the only options, so it's two different choices, that's it. That is the coin viewpoint. The spectrum viewpoint is that it's a range, like when you think of the color spectrum or the light spectrum, it's a whole range of different colors and different kinds of light. And so that is another way that we can look at gender, so it's not so black and white, because there's always variation in everything in life. So the spectrum view is that male and female are the far ends of a range of gender identities. One far end is female and the other far end is male. And people find themselves at all these different stops in between as far as their gender goes, and as far as how they feel they are in their minds, which is what gender is. So sometimes a person who kind of feels in between, or maybe some days they feel more like a boy, or some days they feel more like a girl, that would be non-binary or gender fluid. And then another form of non-binary is also just agender. It's that triangle floating off down in the bottom right corner that's not even on the spectrum, because some people feel they don't need gender or they don't have a gender, and that is okay too. Fun fact! Sex is also a spectrum. Genitals are very diverse, and sometimes people are born with genitals somewhere in between male and female. This is called intersex. So, when you're looking at anatomy, male and female anatomy are actually quite similar. It's all very similar parts, but they're just arranged differently. And so it makes sense that there would be some people in between sometimes. Questioning your orientation. So your orientation is the other part of sexuality. It's about how you relate to others, how you are attracted to people, and live that out in life. So your orientation, sometimes called sexual orientation, is about who you're attracted to. Remember the different kinds of attraction we reviewed in week 1? There was physical, platonic, emotional, aesthetic, and romantic. Different kinds of ways to be attracted to people. Your orientation is mostly going to be about 2 of these. It has to do with your physical attraction and the romantic attraction. Physical attraction is how your body feels about another person's body. And romantic attraction is how your heart and mind feel about another person's heart and mind. These 2 kinds of attraction often line up with each other and happen at the same time toward another person. So oftentimes people will have both physical and romantic attraction to somebody. And that would be like a romantic interest of theirs, or someone they have a crush on. Sometimes, though, they don't, because everyone experiences different kinds of attraction, or experience attraction in different ways. Some people experience one kind of attraction more than another kind of attraction. Everyone's a little different. And some people don't even experience every kind of attraction. Some examples of orientations. There are countless different ones, but here are some of the more or most common orientations. So there's heterosexual or straight. That means being attracted to people of the gender opposite of yours. Homosexual or gay or lesbian is being attracted to people of the same gender as you. Bisexual and pansexual is being attracted to people regardless of their gender. Asexual is not experiencing physical attraction to anyone at all, but an asexual person may or may not experience romantic attraction. An aromantic is a person who doesn't experience romantic attraction to anyone at all, but may or may not experience physical attraction or other kinds of attraction. Sometimes your romantic orientation and your physical orientation are different. It's possible to really be drawn to someone with your heart and your mind, but you don't feel anything for them physically, or vice versa. Like, some people might say they're pan-romantic, for example, and that would mean that they could have romantic feelings about anybody, but they might be heterosexual or homosexual, which would mean that they really only have physical attraction to one gender of people. So your sexuality, which includes your gender identity and your orientation, it takes time to develop and to figure out. And you don't have to figure everything out right now. As a teenager, your sexuality is still developing because your brain, personality, and body are still growing and changing. In addition to this, you might feel like you're one thing for a year or 2, and then after that, you discover that, wow, your orientation or your gender identity might actually be different from what you thought. And that's okay too, because sexuality and the way that our minds relate to our bodies is fluid. It changes as we change as people and as we change and grow. And so you don't have to pick one thing and stick with it till you die. You just have to listen to yourself and be gentle with yourself. All of this is okay, and you're going to be okay. The important thing is that you pay attention to your feelings and your instincts. When you feel a certain way about another person, observe that about yourself in a gentle way, and store that information in your mind. You don't have to share it with anyone or act on it if you don't want to. Just don't try and stuff it down or repress it, because you will only end up hurting. If you find that you're different from what is normal in straight and cisgender, there is nothing wrong with you. No one should demand that you be anyone but who you are. Because you are who God made you to be. God created all of us, and we are all created in God's image according to our scripture and our faith tradition. Think of how many different kinds of humans there are in the world. Each of them, including you, is made in God's image, which means that God is big and varied, like a gemstone with thousands of facets. Each of us is reflected in God. This means that who we are and who we love and the way that we love are all a reflection of who God is. Even if it takes you 100 years to figure out your own sexuality, you can at least spend your life loving yourself and others and respecting and celebrating people who are different from you. That's about all I have for you. I wanted you all to have this information, especially because I didn't have it when I was growing up. I was only taught purity, which made me detach myself from my sexuality and pretend like it didn't exist, and that only ever hurt me because as an adult there were a lot of things I had to figure out about how my mind related to my body that I wished I had done sooner in life. So I hope that this information is helpful to you and that you're able to just keep it in the back of your mind as you are growing into who God made you to be. To know that however you turn out, you are okay, and God made you, and God loves you. So I hope you all have a good week. Let me know if you have questions. Come to the loft after school and ask them, or you can come to youth group in person on Wednesday nights and ask your questions in person. Next week we're going to be covering dealing with rejection, another tough topic. So I'll see you then. Alright, love you, bye!